A business, like life itself, is a tapestry that's woven over time. The most beautiful ones are often works that span generations, with every new one building on the successes of its predecessors. Join us in conversation with local business leaders as we explore just what it takes to craft a lasting legacy. Hello and welcome to this installment of the Opus Legacy Roundtable series, where we discuss the issues related to continuity and legacy planning. This is brought to you in partnership with Opus by Prudential, a dedicated offering designed to meet your wealth management and legacy planning needs. I'm your host, Melissa Hyak, and with me today are the father-daughter team of Ivan and Rachel Ho. Ivan's the founder of Royal Insignia, which started out as an atelier making medals, orders, and decorations for members of a royal family. Today, the atelier has grown its creations and clientele well beyond that to also offer bespoke jewelry and gifts for royalty, governments, and discerning customers across the world. Rachel is Ivan's eldest daughter, a director of the business, and part of the second-generation leaders. So, Ivan, I'm going to ask you this. Is it true that you tricked Rachel into the business, into joining the business?
Well, I conditioned her from a very young age, right? Whenever we sit around during family dinner time, I would tell them stories about the royal palaces that I visited, all the very important customers that I've met. And that must have interest her or maybe thrill her to follow my footsteps or join me in a company later on.
Rachel, is that your side of the story as well?
I think condition is a very convenient word. Well, my side of the story is that I think upon graduating, I was bribed, coerced, and threatened into entering the family business. You know, I was bumming around for a month, had nothing really in my plate, and he was like, "Hey, you know, I have a project. It's just a project. It's just one project. It's just 1 month. You know, help your father. You know, he paid for your university education. Help him out." It's like, okay, sure. And 1 month became 7 years. Yeah, so it was a mixture of, I think, coercion, bribery, and laziness on my part.
So everything is part of plan.
Sure.
Yeah. But at one point, you had wanted to actually try and strike it out there first, right?
I think.
What changed your mind? At what point did you decide, okay, I know you said, you claim it to be laziness, etc., but I'm sure that's not the case. But at what point did you decide, I think I really like doing this and I want to stay?
I think with that 1 month working on that project, it exposed me to a lot of the inner workings of his life, right? And also to get to see our designers at work, our craftsmen at work, I realized there's so much more meaning and depth to what he is doing. And I thought that that's something that I would like to be part of. Yeah.
You talked about, watching him at work. So he's no longer just papa or whatever you call it, right? And you're seeing him as the businessman, the entrepreneur. So what kind of insights did you get about your father? And similarly, Ivan, we'll let you, share your part as well. When you saw Rachel at work, how did that shape your understanding of her? What kind of new insights did you get about your daughter?
Wow, right from the very beginning, right, I don't think that the roles were very clear. Like, he wasn't daddy at home and then boss at work. Over time, it just blends into each other, and that's a problem of its own. But even at home, he was talking about work. Being a business owner, he was already talking about work over family lunches, family dinners. And I remember when we go on vacations, right, we would always be on the lookout for new design ideas, right? And that was way before we joined the family business. So seeing him in his element at work, I don't think there was any difference. It was just a continuation of what we knew, who we knew as a person already. Yeah. Oh
yes, he was conditioning you already right from then. Okay.
Well,
and what about you?
As for me, I used to travel alone when she was when she was still in school. So when she finished university, when I was traveling, I said, okay, why don't you come along and keep daddy company? So I will bring her along to business meeting. I'll tell her about a certain business order. I'll ask for her opinion, and she got excited because some of her opinions were adopted and implemented. Maybe that got her.
It's all part of the
plan. That got her hooked onto the business. Right, but I think it's a good thing. In what I'm doing, the one thing that I think a lot in the morning, when I wake up, sleeping, going to bed in the evening is continuation of what I have started. I constantly ask myself, how can I convince them to carry on doing what I'm doing? And have I prepared them good enough to carry on the company when the times come? Have I established the company so that when they take over, everything is there for them?
There comes an interesting point about legacy planning. When families have a number of children, sometimes it's not very clear about what will happen next time, right? So how do you manage that minefield so that everybody knows that they have this part of the business to run or that part of the business, so that in future you wouldn't have maybe ugly scenes or uncomfortable scenes play out?
This is something that, unlike going into a family business, this is actually something we thought about before my brother and my sister came on board, right? And I like to call it my domain theory, right? I think that the traditional sense where the elders has the final say, that's a very outdated and very microscopic way of looking at things, right? So what we did from the onset is to craft domains, right? And the domains will play to each of our strengths. So for example, I'm great at like networking and business development. My brother's really strong at operations, and my sister's strong with the crafting side of the entire business. So our domains became our strengths. So anything to do with operations, for example, we can weigh in, we can share our opinions, but the final say lies in the hands of my brother. And we have to respect that. Yeah. And I think this is a very fair way to go about things, and also, in a sense, avoided a lot of conflicts between the three of us. Yeah.
So what tip would you give to other sort of like parent-child teams that might be starting out in, getting the next generation joining the family business?
Well, this I learned from her, all right? And I think it's a good advice from her. Sean did not just come into the business willingly. I would like to use the word willingly, right? He have his moment of, I don't know. I don't know what is my future. I'm not thinking about that. I still have time. So when I share this problem with Rachel, he tell me, said that your job is to create as much opportunity for him as possible. Let him seize the opportunity and let him perform. Right? That's all you can do. You cannot force him to do anything, but your job is to create the opportunity, and that's what I'm doing.
And for the children who are maybe a little reluctant to join a family business, what would you say to them?
As I've said, the opportunity is there. All right? You just have to see for yourself, weigh it, as I mentioned earlier on, against the sacrifice that you're going to make if you take it on. And I'm sure, I send them through university. They all have very good education. I'm sure they can make a good sense out of it.
Rachel, do you have anything to add to that? Speaking directly from someone's kid, obviously, to another person.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think it's wrong. I think that the option should always be left up to the child. Right? Do you or do you not want to join the family business? It should be an open question, and the family should accept your decision. Because I think that no matter what you do, right, the motivations have to be very clear and correct from the onset. Once your motivations are muddled, once there is threats involved, or coercion involved, then your path isn't going to be very clear. There are going to be moments of doubts and hesitation. Yeah.
Now, as both of you continue to try and craft a story for Royal Insignia into the future, as you both try to work together to shape that story, have you run into sort of differences, intense differences you talked about, and how did you resolve them?
Oh, definitely. We are from the different era. For where I came from, where I came from in the 70s and 80s, life was not like what it is now, right? So for me, as I've said, I spent all my life, every minute of my living life, trying to create beautiful products. That is my only focus. I sleep, I eat, everything. I think how to make the thing even more beautiful, right? But for them, they have a lot of other consideration. They have social media. They have this, which is in the beginning it was quite alien to me.
But I think a lot of family businesses, especially the second gen, right? You hear the same story. The second gen comes in, he or she faces a lot of resistance from the founders, and she wipes everything aside, rebrand. Thankfully, that was not what I experienced, So we did have our differences, but I think in terms of the narrative, in terms of understanding what the DNA of Royal Insignia is and where we want to bring it to, we were very aligned from the onset. So when I came into the company, right, I didn't see myself as overhauling everything. It was more of crystallizing what he has already put into place, and packaging it in a way that was contemporary and which communicated effectively what is it that our brand stood for and who is it that we served. Yeah, so it was, I think, relatively pain-free.
Okay, that's very good. I mean, very few, I think, teams, could say that about their experiences. Now, Rachel, you've introduced some more contemporary ideas and maybe about processes, about products, right? In fact, I read that you had added a new restoration and conservation department into it. Can Rachel tell me more about it and any other new ideas in your head?
Well, let me show you some of the pieces we're working on. So I think what we've been doing ever since I came on board is to extend really our repertoire, our range of services. So I'd like to say that right now, not only are we marking our customers' important moments with the products that we create, we are helping them to chronicle their past. So we have a publication department, and it combines itself with a research department that delves into their history of their matters and really to publish books that explains this history. And we also have a restoration department, and this is where you preserve the future. So the tagline that we have right now is to mark the moment, to preserve the past, and to chronicle your history. And I think really the idea came around where, one of these days I was in one of our customers' private museums, and we happened to see our products in one of the museum exhibits. And for some strange reason, even though it should not have surprised me, I was surprised. I was like, oh my goodness, I wasn't aware that the products that we create with our brand name and our hallmark stem onto the back was actually displayed in private and maybe even like country museums from around the world. And this, I think, really added a lot of significance to what we are doing. Immediately, I realized that my craftsmen were not just production workers. They were markers of history. They were marking important moments, and they were putting the Made in Singapore hallmark in museums around the world. So I thought at that moment that we could do even more than that. We could do even more than making bespoke products for our customers. We should also go into preserving their past. And I think this is where the entire idea of expanding our repertoire to restoration services came around. So this is a very good example of what we do. This one here is, I think, the present. So it's one of the most expensive medals in the world, entirely paved with diamonds, emerald, rubies, solid 18K gold. And I think it's a working medal, meaning it is still being issued, I think on a monthly basis right now in Southeast Asia. But we also have here two of these medals. So this one here is Order the White Elephant. It was issued by Siam. And this one here, one of my favorites because it's the Order the Dragon on Annam. So this one was a very old medal that used to be produced by Vietnam. So these two medals are at least 150 years old. Yeah, and no longer in production. I think even holding these pieces in your hands, you can sense the significance, right? And we're restoring it. We're restoring it, and we're creating a replica for a private museum. And I think just being part of this project, right, was super meaningful because you are holding something that is 200 years old, and yet the craftsmanship is impeccable. It is comparable to what we're doing today. And I think in line with this entire discussion about legacy, we are in a very small way helping some families preserve theirs. And I think this really adds meaning to what we do on a daily basis. It adds significance to our brand name as Royal Insignia.
And I must add that we are very lucky. The product that we create must withstand the test of time. And as Rachel mentioned, many of them end up in museum and gallery. And within every piece of our creation, within certain parts, inside that product is being engraved our company names, Royal Insignia, crafted and designed by Royal Insignia, the date, December 2020, for example, and the location, Singapore. Hopefully 50 years later, 100 years later, when this thing is being taken apart for restoration, somebody will remember that there's this group of company, location Singapore, on this date, have done this wonderful piece. So this is part of legacy. And we have agreed among ourselves that no matter what, we have to carry on with Royal Insignia. Royal Insignia make us what we are today, and without Royal Insignia, his story will be totally different.
Well, that looks beautiful and I think very expensive. So shall we just set it aside for safekeeping as we continue with our chat? Okay. Okay, now my final question actually would be, how would you like your separate legacies be viewed or described in future? Maybe Ivan first.
Well, as for me, I will carry on making all this beautiful product. And importantly, what I must do right now is to ensure that I can retain our traditional culture of craftsmanship, which is very important to what we are doing. And it's also to introduce modern technology, which is going to make our production more relevant moving into the future. And this is something that I want to get all these things in place. So when they finally take over, it will be easier for them. And I hope that I will be remembered that I have actually initiated all this and make their road moving forward much easier.
And Rachel, yours?
I agree. I think, well, my legacy is, I see it as a continuation of my dad's, right? So in the past, he struggled to convince our customers from around the world that luxury craftsmanship in Singapore is worth nothing, it's worth considering. And now that he has convinced them of that fact, I feel like when it comes to me, my job is to convince Singapore that Singapore craftsmanship is worth considering, right? And the reason for that is because we think that there is a lack, Singapore lacks a spirit of craftsmanship, a culture of craftsmanship, We're known for our high-rise buildings, our technology, but we're rarely known for making stuff, or quality craftsmanship. And now that we have a few years of experience in this area, I would like to develop a culture like that in Singapore. I mean, like the few decades that my dad was in business, right? Royal Insignia was operating in silos, right? Our own craftsmen, our own material, our own technology. When it comes to me, I want to expand that a bit. How can we collaborate with local artisans and local craftsmen to create luxury crafting that is truly Singaporean? I think that's really exciting to work on.
And we have this outreach program to all the tertiary educations.
Correct, with tertiary educations, just to bring all these aspiring crafters, not hobbyists, mind you, but aspiring crafters on board, and to see how we can, nurture them to fulfill their potential. Yeah.
Well, Ivan, Rachel, thank you so much for sharing your stories and your passion with us on this Opus Legacy Roundtable. It's been very inspiring.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for your time.